After I tossed back to you just moments ago, heard a large crash about 15 yards off to my side. Part of the rooftop, these are the Spanish tiles of the rooftop that we're on, just came crashing down about 4 stories off the ground, crashed down on the ground around us. This is exactly what just landed on the ground around us. So as I was mentioning, and as while we were talking, and the fortification and the structural soundness of the buildings that we're in, that we felt really good about where we're at. Not to say that it won't endure any kind of damage, but if these shingles and these tiles are coming off the roof here on these really strong buildings, you can imagine what it must be like in the neighborhoods and the areas surrounding closest to where we are and closest to the wall of the eye of this hurricane. So a highly dangerous situation, as some of these tiles just flying off the roof, crashing down here on the ground next to us. And as we mentioned, we're protected. We're tucked away underneath an area here, and that's why you see that on camera that we're not getting blown around as much. We are simply not just going to stand out there any longer as the wall in the eye of this hurricane approaches closer to where we are. But this is it. This is just landing on the ground, and you can imagine all the other kind of debris that is flying around out there as this storm makes its way toward us, Chris.
All right, Bud, so we got to make it through this phase, and then we have to deal with what Chad was explaining earlier as the redistribution of the energy. When the wind comes around the other direction and brings that storm surge, then you get another phase of this. And you also get a different dynamic just in terms of the mechanics of what it does to the surrounding structures and foliage. Chad, weigh in on this if I get it wrong, but I remember it from you, which is everything that's been fighting to stay up in one way is now going to get hit at its weakest angle the other way.
Correct. When
the energy redistributes and the surge comes and the wind starts coming from another way. Accurate or no?
Absolutely accurate. And I think the other thing to talk about is how powerful water is. And if you get a surge of 10 to 15 feet in that area, homes will be lost. The building itself will be lost. Whereas a wind event, you can hide from it. You lose shingles. You may lose some roof, a sheet of plywood from your roof, but you won't lose your home. If you get hit by this storm surge that's still to come, that's when you lose things. Officially, I said 1:30. National Weather Service out of Naples Airport just had 1:31 18 minutes ago. You were in it. 1:31. That's, I hope, as bad as it gets. You're now beginning to get to a slightly inner core of the storm itself, and now slightly less in wind. And in 20 minutes, it may very well be calm.
Oh, from your lips to God's ears. So when you take a look at the map, where are we in terms of that? Is that what you're showing everybody right now?
Yes, Naples Manor, which is about 3 miles or 4 miles south of you, is already in the eye. So they're in good shape. Golden Gate, you're getting hit, honestly. This is one of the neighborhoods that's really getting slammed to your west. Probably still 131 for them. But Naples down to 115 to 110, and it is going down from here as we get you closer and closer to the eye. Now less than probably 15 minutes before you will see all the palm fronds just fall down to the ground, or just kind of limp down to the side of the tree, because the wind will go to near zero.
All right, so that's what we have coming our way, and that's good to know from those who are monitoring it. We know we have a lot of people in Florida who are watching us. We're thinking about you. We hope that you took the right precautions. We hope that you're still able to follow the coverage. If you see us able to be doing what we're doing, hopefully the structure that you're in is going to be just fine. And what we've been watching us around us, as dramatic as it is, hopefully it's not as dangerous as it is dramatic. So far this tree line is holding here, and these buildings are still protected that are around us, less so on the other side. And you've seen things blow around in the air here, a little bit of Wizard of Oz style, but they're fairly small projectiles at this point, not the kinds of things that I've seen do damage in the past. That's a good sign as well. But again, there is no cause for false optimism. We'll have to see what happens on the backside of this storm and with the storm surge. As Chad has been coaching us all along, The wind is dramatic. There's no question about that. There's a danger component to it. But it is water that kills. It's drowning that takes people's lives in hurricanes. And storm surge is not just powerful, but it's lasting. So we're going to have to see that. And again, I keep going back to timing, Chad, because especially when you're in it, that's just your natural reaction to it from an endurance standpoint, is how much longer, how much longer. And the scary part is, at least from the perspective on the ground, is how much longer there is. I mean, watching John and those correspondents, you know, it's a long time, and things just only have so much tolerance, whether it's a structure or a vehicle or even an infrastructure system of your roadways and your sewage. And I don't mean that just from some planning perspective. I'm saying backup of sewage, homes not being able to have livable conditions, you know, what they call habitability. I mean, that's what all this is about. It's about what all of this does to their lifestyle, Chad. And is your perspective, your take on it so far, that you're getting why the governor was so conscientious about saying we're talking about weeks here, we're talking about commitment from the federal government for weeks and months, and in the billions in terms of what they estimated going into this? Do you think they're going to wind up being justified in what they thought going into it?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, this storm had the punch when it was over Cuba at 160 miles per hour. And to the people of northern Cuba, we are internally grateful. What happened to your country is a shame. It was the damage that created the storm to go from 160 to 130. It was a true remarkable reduction in power that our country didn't have to take. And as it's now moving over Key Largo and into the Keys and then into Collier County, all of a sudden we had a survivable storm where 160 to 165 in some places with wind speeds there would not have been survivable. So you are now getting into a much better place. Here in Chris, you're going to get into the winds dropping off rapidly to maybe 35 or 45 miles per hour, and that's the good news. But the rest of the story is that we're going from here to Pelican Bay to Naples Park to Bonita Springs, heading up the coast with the same event that you just had there. I have a question for you, if you can hear me. I know the wind's going down a little bit. I don't know if you had a chance to do any ground truth, but the road that we see below you, how many feet is that above sea level?
All right. Hey, Chad, water's coming up this street here. I don't know if you can see it. Dave, show it to him. This just like is coming out of nowhere. All of a sudden, this street is flooded. Do you see it?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, do you think that this is just flooding and the sewer system letting go?
No, I believe that this is the bubble of water that you're about to see as the storm surge makes its way into Marco Island and Naples, Golden Gate, Pelican Bay. This is the real deal. This is the water.
Man, this came out of nowhere, Chad.
Yes, it is. Yes, it did.
I mean, literally, we have 1.5 feet of standing water here. I mean that it's not dangerous, but it's a lot of water really fast. And what does this mean? And obviously it's deeper as you get closer, right?
Sure, it'll be deeper as you get closer to the Gulf of Mexico. There's a little barrier there from the Gulf of Mexico spilling over to Naples into Marco Island, but that barrier is going to be easily breached, and the water will be right there into downtown Naples. I was just curious as to how many feet above sea level that road was. I'm not able to do that right now standing here at the weather board, but I'm thinking not 10 feet above sea level, not more than that.
All right, and give me a little sense of timing again. And Chad, you know, I apologize, but again, I just feel like so much of it is about duration and tolerance. What are we looking at? So now, as this eye goes by, give me my next time component, so that the people who are in parts north get a sense of proportion in terms of, what kinds of waves they can look for.
We'll take a look at the palm trees and the palm fronds barely now moving, slowing down, and in the eye itself, the skies will begin to lighten and brighten, and then all of a sudden the bubble of water that has been following along with this storm all the way through the Caribbean. We saw pictures, and if you didn't, they are amazing, in the Bahamas, where the water was gone from the islands, and people were saying, I've never seen this before. How did this ever happen? Where did the water go? The water went with the hurricane. It did have that bubble of water, the surge water, that's going to come in now. And if you think a freshwater flood is bad, a saltwater flood is even worse for homes and businesses and the people that have to clean up after that saltwater flood, and that's what's on its way. The surge flood. A flash flood emergency is still in effect for Collier County. That means flash flooding is going to occur or is occurring, and it will be life-threatening. That's where we are now. I don't know, because the slow speed of the storm, only 12 miles per hour, how quickly that water will be 5 or 10 or 15 feet high, but it will be less than a half hour, Chris, I think.
All right, and look, and that's good to hear, because I'm just trying to weigh different factors. All right, what's the main considerations, the windows that we're looking at, is when can the first responders get out? They're going to need winds that die down, and not just during the eye, right, because they're all sophisticated enough to know what you're telling us right now. And it just makes me wonder, if we're seeing this here, what is the situation for the people if they're still in homes as we get down there towards where that surge is much closer to that 10 to 15 feet that you were talking about. Control room, do we have Ed Lavandera? Is he down there? I wonder what the water is looking like for him on the ground. Do we have him, Ed?
Yeah, I'm here, Chris. Can you hear me? We're adjusting the camera here a second. The winds have settled down a little bit, so that gives us a little bit of opportunity to adjust and give a little bit better perspective. That was an unreal hour and a half, I suspect, of intensity that we've seen here down on the streets of downtown Naples. Now the winds have died down enough where we can kind of show you a little bit of what we experienced here. Look at all the, that's to be expected, those tree limbs there. This is part of the the tiles that came flying off the roof of the building that we're in there. And now we've gotten a little bit better view, and you can really start to see a little bit of the tree damage is to be expected as soon as all of this passes through, and now it's starting to kick up again. Thought we had a little bit of a break there to give you a little bit better perspective, but that's what we're facing there. Obviously, we're not in a position to really gauge here at this point. We're just in the process of trying to withstand and endure what this hurricane is bringing here to Southwest Florida. So, but now the visibility is back, which is stunning, because now we can see several more 100 yards through the trees here that we've been providing you the live picture from, and you can see that the floodwaters and the amount of water that is collected and pocketed up in various parts of the street. That's going to be even worse on the backside of this storm as the storm surge starts coming in from the Gulf side. And what you've seen there along that main street that you're on is extensive as well, and that's going to be even worse in some of the more lower lying areas. The area we're in, we picked obviously because it was set up a little bit higher here in the city, but in those parts where it's much more lower lying, and as soon as we can get to those areas in the hours ahead, be able to report a little bit more extensively and give people a better picture of what has occurred here. But the intensity of that is just unreal, and it is just unbelievable to describe what we have endured here for nearly 2 hours, Chris.
All right, hey Ed, they're telling us that the eye is passing over. It doesn't feel like it. Chad, I thought the eye was supposed to be like this piece of calm where you look up and you see the sky or whatever it is. We're still getting a hit here. In fact, I want Dave to sneak out if he can, now that it's not as nasty. I want to show them the storm surge. And hey Ed, just get in my ear real quick and tell me, how far is the hotel from the marina again? I forget from when I was walking down there this morning. Was it like 8 blocks? Just to give a sense of proportion of how much water we have.
There's two different bodies. Yeah, I can hear you, Chris. There's two different bodies of water that we have to keep tabs on. On the west side of us, we have the Gulf of Mexico. We're probably about a good 8 blocks from that. That's that direction. If you look back over here toward the east, about a mile or so is where that marina is and where the river that comes in on the east side of Naples. And that is going to be the area of real concern, because that storm surge gets pushed back in there, and then that starts kind of fanning its way out through the neighborhoods. And so that marina is about a mile away.
All right, Ed, I got you. Let me get Dave out here, the PJ, our photojournalist, part of the team here, just to try and get you down this street. Big man, let's come over this way and show them down the street. Because if we're 8 blocks away, you go past me, Dave, and show them, yeah, and get down that street. So we're 8 blocks away. So Chad, just to give you some perspective on this, all right? Here's 8 blocks away.